Coming at you from the compound, people. Let's pull up a seat and have a little talk here. So this is the update on the ATV dump trailer, and if you can see, I've got some self-etching primer. This has all been cleaned and sprayed down with denatured alcohol. This piece here still has to have the sides built onto it. That's why I've not have this painted yet, or at least primed. The rest of the work on the subframe, you'll see that greenish military looking color. That's the self-etch primer. This is good for direct to metal, but you do want to clean the surface. The situation we've got here is I've got it all pretty much welded up on the subframe. Now I just need to build the sides from the actual bed of the trailer. But what I've got, I wanted to bring you along here to show you. Let me get in here and just take a gander of what we've got. This here is the these are the bolts here. These are not going to be this long, but I wanted to show you. A second here. Okay, I wanted to show you the walking beam. Now the walking beam is something that says when we hit a bump or a piece of log out in the woods, the situation will be able to go over it without causing a huge problem. Now this would be your walking beam. I made these separate. Now this is also a self-etching primer, but it's a gray. It's just a different brand, and it keeps the the self-etch primer actually, it's a acid type of primer, and it burns down into the metal itself. So that type of situation is a pretty good primer. And what I did here is, I don't know if you can see this, but where these holes are, where the bolts are going to go through, that's not just a hole in the tubing. There's actually there's a piece of pipe in there. And what that does, that provides much more support over the longevity of the axle. And what I did was I also put these supports here, because if there's any kind of pressure on this, I want it to be able to stand up over the test of time. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in here, and we're going to show you what we got. So this would be your standard walking beam. And what I did was I've centered the actual box of the trailer is going to be 6 feet by 4 feet wide. And I've centered it so that pretty much when the trailer is full or empty, it pretty much stays pretty much level. It isn't a whole lot of tongue weight. But here's the deal. There's going to be 2 wheels on this walking axle. So when you hit a bump, as you can see, it goes up over the log and that way over the log. It rotates up and over. And what I'm going to do is put a bumper here on both sides so that when it comes up, it actually hits inside that inside the dog legs, or whatever you want to call those, for capturing the axle. And the other thing I wanted to show you was that the dump portion. What I'm going to do, they have these assist. They're assist, sort of like a hatchback hydraulic assist arm. I'm going to put 2 of them in here that are capable of 200 pounds each. And then there's going to be let me see if I can show you here. Let me get over here. Hold on a second. So what there's going to be over here is there's going to be a pipe. Okay, so when the pipe will be underneath the trailer, you can pull it out to get leverage and lift up on it, and the assist from the hydraulic arms, which are going to be underneath here, there's going to be 2 of them, one on each side. It will actually assist and hold the trailer up. Now I'm about to show you how this pivots, but let me bring you back over here. Hold on 1 second, people. Okay, so let me show you here. Again, what I did was, now you can't breathe this stuff in, or you shouldn't, so I wear a respirator. But also what I did was I opened my garage door and turned my heater on over there and got everything nice and warm. I sprayed it, let the fumes out, and then I shut the door and continued with the heat. And to the touch, it's actually dry. But this is what I wanted to show you. I've actually got these, I made these brackets with the plasma cutter. Okay. And I've got one on each side. The one on the inside, as you can see, doesn't have this dog leg right here. But I wanted that just for mainly for support on the inside for the bolt. It actually would have worked with just one, but I really wanted to capture it like that. And what I did is I did the same thing on this piece of the trailer housing, or the frame of it. I actually put a piece of material in there. Let me show you what I got. So this here is a piece of steel that I bought at Home Depot. And what I used was a big, I've got an old cutter. Hold on, if I can find it, I'll show you what it is. Here it is. Instead of using a saw or something like that that can actually get a little out of whack, they sell these at Harbor Freight. These are a big pipe cutter. That actually cut that really nice and precise without going sideways. And that's something that you're going to want to use on something like this. But I cut a piece, I believe 1.25 inches, cut it off, and then I took this in here, put it in the end, which is open, and drew it all the way down here with a rod, and then centered it up on the holes, and I actually welded the holes, ground them off, and then as you can see how the frame's going to work. And what I've done is, like I was showing you, this is the center of the trailer, which would be 3 feet this way and 3 feet that way. It gives me the center, and I've got that centered right on the walking beam. And if you remember, I don't know if you've seen all my videos, but that's a temporary bolt there. These are the ones I'm going to put in there with the Zerk, so I can grease them. But as you can see the walking beam, how that works. You know, and this way here, the trailer can go up over a rougher terrain without actually flipping the trailer over if you've got it loaded full of stuff. So here's the from this point here to this point is the center of the tires, center of the axles. And each tire will go on there. They're 18 inches, so I'll have about 2 inches of center between them. What I've got to do here on this upper piece, like I said, is I'm going to build, we're going to come straight up at 3 points on the trailer. We're going to do it right in the center, and we're going to do it on the ends. But what we're going to do is we're going to come straight up 6 inches, then we're going to come out, and then we're going to come back up so that we have like a dish, and that's all going to get wrapped with metal. But I wanted to show you how this dumps. And again, if you can picture, underneath here I'm going to have a saddle, like a pillow saddle right here, with a bar that can go all the way in here. This will be captured within another pipe. It will come out and it'll have a stopper on it so that it can come out a couple feet, maybe 18 inches, and you'll be able to lift directly up with those cylinders in there. Okay, they hold actually 200 pounds. And that's 400 pounds of lift, which if you think about it, that should be plenty. It's actually going to be quite a deal just pushing it back down. But I wanted to show you how this lifts. Really, really easy. Okay. And I want you to see back here how I've got that. Okay. And if you remember, this is why I had to cut this portion out so that the walking beam could swivel up in that pocket right there. But that's pretty much what we've got here, and it's got more than a 45-degree angle, which is plenty. And I measured it. That tail part right there will not be lower than the actual tires will. But as you can see, that's quite a nice little angle. And then this will come down. Of course, it'll have the hydraulic arms, so it'll come down slower. And you'll have to push on the front. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put a, if you can see this here, I marked this out, 1.5 inches. I'm going to put a piece on here where you have to pull it back with a spring, and it will catch a latch there. And then over here, I want to do like a triangle gusset. So when it comes down, it saddles around the tongue of the trailer, and I'm do a little kick out right there. But that's my idea, people, of a trailer that says that's for the four-wheeler. Now this tongue out here is reinforced all the way double strong. I'm actually only going to be maybe right to there, and I got to put we're going to put a swivel collar coupler on there, so that if you're in the woods and the four-wheeler shifts or turns, your trailer don't have to flip in order to follow it. But the other thing I wanted to show you here, this is a little thicker steel. This is what I cut the, if you can see, this is what I cut the, these back pieces here for the hinge, I guess you would call it. And that's 1/4 inch steel. Look how nice that plasma cutter slices through that. Now what I did do, this is this little bit here on the end, a lot of people will grind this. You don't need to grind that. You just hit it with a chisel and it pops that off. That's slag, or some people call it dross. But there's still quite a little bit of good steel there. I can make some stuff out of that. But the other thing I wanted to show you was this piece here. Let me bring it over here. So this was on the back of the trailer here. Okay, this was like this, but that piece right there, the trailer actual box hits that, so I had to shorten them up. And what I did was I cut straight down and underneath and across the other side right here. But the top, what I did is I sliced it, and I don't know if you can see how nice that plasma cutter cut that. It sliced it along the top, and then so I had this tail sticking out here. And what I did was I just put a slight crease in it with the grinder, with the cutoff wheel, and I just folded this down, and as you can see, that metal wraps right around and it's all been welded, so it boxes in the trailer. And then all I did was I nipped it off the excess length, and when I flipped it over, I welded it. But this here will all get self-etching primer. But for now, I still got a weld on this, so I really don't want to put no primer on it. It's really clean steel. This is that steel I got. Like I said, over to Tractor Supply, they were throwing it out. These are 1.5 inches by 2 1/4 beams. And I've got so much of that stock that I just put in my shed that I took all the pieces apart, and I took all the welds off them and ground them down. And I think it's going to be a really nice situation, because these are all going to be painted gloss black. But the metal on the sides, I'm thinking I'm going to go with probably like a red color, because my four-wheeler's red. And I think it'll match really nice. But yeah, that's the update on the trailer, people. That's the update, and I will say that self-etching primer is some really nice stuff. I bought 3 cans of it. I want to say it was $7 at Walmart. And what else? What else can I tell you? I did wind up going to get a different cable for my my plasma cutter. As you can see right there, I bought an 8-foot section right here, and I put an end on it. And the way that works is whatever current you're bringing into the plasma cutter, it recognizes that, and it allows you to go a little thicker steel without popping the breaker, basically. Because you can run it on 110. But that's mainly for thin steel, you know. That's mainly for steel that's, how do I put it? Sheet metal and up to, say, maybe 1/8 inch. When you start getting into 1/4 inch, You really need that extra strength to blow through the, hold on, make a little bit. Ooh. To blow through the that heavier gauge, you're going to need something with a little more amperage. But yeah, so the deal is, we've got the trailer almost completed. The bottom is almost done now. I have a huge basement. Let me bring you over here so you can see what's going on. I have a huge basement, right? And my plan is, if it continues to get cold and stay cold out, it's okay to prime like I'm doing, because I've got the heat on, and I'm keeping it warm in here. But if it turns around and gets to a point where it starts getting cold again, it's 70 degrees in my basement, so I can just have my son help me carry this down there. We'll set it down on the sawhorses, and we'll put some tape over everything so we don't get paint on the floor and all that, and we'll go ahead and we're going to brush. I want to get some nice high gloss Rust-Oleum. It seems to go over this etching primer really nice, and that's the plan. Okay, that's the plan. But yeah, this is the primer. Okay, it's a Rust-Oleum brand primer. It's self-etching primer. Again, you're going to want to wear a mask, and you're going to want to be in a well-ventilated area. And in this condition, I actually had the heater on with the door open so that the fumes went outside. But that's the deal. And I hope everybody out there is having a good night. I wanted to give you an update. As you can see, I'm getting a little tired myself. I don't know if it's the weather or the time of year or what, but excuse me. But yeah, we're turning around, and I'll say this, the Hobart welder has been absolutely wonderful. Now, the Vulcan wire from Harbor Freight, I've got to tell you, it is beautiful wire. I will highly recommend the wire from Harbor Freight. Let's take you over there and give you a little peek here, because we got some goodies today. We got some goodies today. Now, I went over to Tractor Supply, and I had a #1 tank, which is kind of just barely above this here. It's kind of small. They're really small. And it costs about $34 to get it filled. Okay? When I was over there, I asked the lady, I said, hey, you know, how much is for the bigger #2 tank? And as you can see, they put numbers on them. And she says, oh, that's $379 for the tank. And then you got, if you want to fill it, it's another $40. So you're talking over $400 for that tank. I've been looking online. I just can't wait no longer. I had to have that tank. Now, I didn't pay that kind of cabbage. What I did was she said, well, you have an empty #1 that you own. Would you like to trade it in, and we'll give you the money value for it, and you can upgrade? And I said, well, yeah, I paid, I want to say $159. I paid for my little #1 at there's a store up here called Runnings. And so I'm doing the math. I paid $150. They want $400. I said, well, how much is it going to be? Because I'm not giving no $300 and something for the tank. She says, no, it'll be like $69 for a difference. So I said, yes, let's do it. So we went in, and with the fuel, a full tank of this, which currently runs about $44 to fill these, and this, it was $104, okay, for the upgrade. And I'm super happy that I did that, because this will last me a lot longer now. And here's the other thing, people. Make sure you shut your tanks off. Don't leave them on, okay? Make sure you shut them off so nothing's... you can see the system holds pressure on it. So you know you got a really good regulator if it's holding pressure. But anyway, I wanted to show you that, and I wanted to tell you about this this wire here that I got. Hold on a second. Okay. This is the Vulcan wire. Okay. It's 11 pounds. Now, if you get the Hobart one, it's only 10 pounds. But I'll tell you what. What's really nice about this situation is, with the bigger spools, you can just undo this, right? And there's a piece on the back. This hub, you install the hub with, I don't know if you can see this, there's a spring, a washer, and a lock nut here. Once the hub is set and you tighten this down, you don't have to adjust the tightness of your wire, like, because you want to make sure that it flows free, but yet it's not so free that it just keeps unwinding and does what's called a bird cage in there. It'll wad up on itself. But once you get the nice thing about the bigger spools, once you get the hub tightened down, all you got to do is take this outer collar off, put the new one on, tighten this right up, and the hub is already set originally how you set it. Now, if you're going to put a smaller spool on, you have to every time adjust this and get it just right so that this rotates, but yet it rotates freely, because you got to remember that's just a little motor right there pulling that wire. Okay? But super happy, really like that wire. It seems to be a really nice quality. Now here's a situation here on my welder. It gives you all the different variables, like what are your welding: steel, stainless, regular steel, aluminum. Okay, and then it brings you over. Let's just do steel, right? So we'll come over. It tells you where to set the polarity, if you're doing what type of wire and polarity you're using, because different wire, like if you're using solid wire, you have to, and your gas, it's a little different setup than flux core. But then it tells you, like here, what settings to put the if you're using 24,000, see this? This is the size of the wire. If you're using 30, right? You'd bring it over here. If you're cutting something, that, see the little lines up here? This tells you like the thickness of the metals. So if you were doing something really small, like that size there, it recommends going with a 24 gauge. See, like sheet metals. Okay, and then you get over into something like this, like what is that, 1/8? Now this is more like what I'm, 1/4 inch is what I was welding for my hinges, right? So for steel, to burn it in properly, you're going to want to set the dial, the temperature to 6, and then have 70 on the speed. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Let me shut this back down. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's take a look at this a minute. Let me move my gun. Now I got this, I think, at Harbor Freight. This is a really handy deal when you're welding. You can just bring it in and set it in there, and that's a magnet. So like we just seen on 1/4 inch, they recommend you put the power to 6, right? And you'd turn your dial up, which is your feet of your wire, to 70. Okay, that's just a recommendation. That's a ballpark. Now you may want to go 72 or 68, and you may want to go even 5. Okay, but that just gives you the correct. Now I was cutting or welding some thinner stuff, so I had it back down here. But that just gives you a general idea of what you want to basically have the settings at. You don't have to guess. You can say, oh, the welder kind of gives you, the welder gives you a little bit of insight on what might be a good idea for starting out on the actual material that you're dealing with. So that's just one of them deals that kind of gives you a little help if you got a welder that has that little guide in it. Some of the other welders have them, some of them don't, but you can even download that and get online or go into a store and look at it. Say you have a welder, maybe it's a less expensive welder, and the deal is yours don't have that on there. Well, it's pretty much the same. Like with most welders, they're not identical, but it gives you a ballpark. You could download that or get a picture of it, and then just laminate it or put it in your shop. So when you're learning, you're starting out, you could say, well, what do I need? Because the problem is, here's the deal: you don't want to be burning into 1/4 inch and not having enough penetration. You won't get a good weld. It'll just lay the weld wire on top of it rather than burning into it and making it one good weld. Now, I'm not a professional welder, but I've welded enough things over my life to know what's going to hold and what ain't. And that is a good guide that gives you a good reference point to start with. But anyway, this is Brian here, and I just wanted to give you one last look at this to show you the situation of the dump trailer. All right. But this is Bry. I'm out.